All right, fantastic. Well, again, welcome everyone. My name is Ezra, and I work in our Career and Professional Development Department here at WGU. And today I'm excited for our session on pharmaceutical sales as part of Sales Week with our wonderful guest, Michael Wallace. And before we get started, I do just have a few housekeeping items. So as you've seen, the session is recorded, and that recording will be made available to everyone after the call. Please be sure to stay on mute. We just making sure. So let's try to stay on mute. We will have a Q&A portion at the end. So please feel free as you think of questions, add them to the chat, or you can come off mute at the end. I can call on you, and we can have that Q&A, and you can ask your own question as well. So that works. And then last but not least, our team has a very, very short 2-question survey. I'll put the link in the chat again at the end of the session. If you guys can give our team some feedback, we always appreciate that as well. All right, fantastic. So with all of that out of the way, Michael, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate having you here with us, and of course, sharing your expertise. Go ahead and kick us off and just sort of introduce yourself, kind of what you're doing.
Yep. More than happy to. So good morning, good afternoon, and good night, I guess. I'm not sure where everybody's from, but I saw in Illinois and I saw Nebraska. So would that be the case? I'm sure we've got people in plenty of time zones. Currently, I reside in Michigan, and I am a graduate of the University of Oregon. And currently, I'm an area business manager for Pfizer Pharmaceuticals. We have a lot of divisions of Pfizer. There's 82,000 employees within Pfizer. We're in 126 countries. As a pharmaceutical area business manager, I have 10 colleagues that call on physicians and educate them about disease states and treatments. And we have 2 primary products that are represented out in the marketplace. They are Eliquis, which is an anticoagulant, and then we have Nurtec ODT, which is for migraine headaches. So I've been with Pfizer for 38 years. I was exactly where you are right now. 38 years ago, I was attending the University of Oregon. I had not the pleasure of something like this, but I did apply for this job, and I'm sure we'll get into more specifics of how I ended up at Pfizer versus some of the other companies out there. But that's just a brief introduction about me. My goal for each of you today is ultimately, if you could, take away 1 or 2 pearls. I don't expect you to remember everything, but take action on those 1 or 2 things that maybe I can help you with. And I will make myself available to you, even up to and including if you want to find me on LinkedIn. I'm always available on LinkedIn. I can send that QR code and it can be shared with you. But at the end of the day, I'm here to help you. I've had the pleasure of being in the same career for 38 years, a lot of different roles, but love the pharmaceutical industry. And I always say, once you get in, no one's going to pull you back out. So it's a great career, no doubt about it. So that's a little bit about myself. I'm sure you'll learn more as we go on, but just try to, keep an open mind about what I share with you. And it applies to not just Pfizer, but any pharmaceutical job, and in some cases, any job out there. So that's
Fantastic.
it. Yep.
Fantastic. Well, yeah, with that, let's hear a little bit about how you ended up in sales
Sure.
and kind of your current role at Pfizer.
Yeah, so it's an interesting story. As I mentioned, I attended to the University of Oregon, and go Ducks. I know we got a lot of fans out there, a lot of different colleges, and a lot of different areas represented. But when I went to the Career Center, so many years ago, they still had a Career Center, we had to bid on jobs. So we only had like 200 points, and each point represented the opportunity for a job, and you had to outbid other candidates. So I put all my points into this company that many of us still know today, Macy's, and I put the rest of my points in this company by the name of Pfizer. And so I did get the opportunity to interview with Macy and Pfizer. And Pfizer, believe it or not, I've always been interested in sales, so I could be a department manager at Macy's selling suits, or I could go work for Pfizer, which at that time I just knew it was a sales job, and we'd be giving back by way of medications to consumers. So Pfizer offered me $200 more a year. So I ended up coming with Pfizer, and now I have moved 5 times in my career. And if you go look at my professional, LinkedIn profile, you'll see I've taken on additional responsibilities over the years. I ventured out into different jobs, and then always with Pfizer, but came back to the sales division. So sales has always been in my heart. I've always loved to get in front of people. You got to have thick skin, no doubt about that. And so, with that be the case, that's how I ended up in sales, and that's how I ended up in Pfizer. You never know what $200 difference a year can make, but they did offer me 200 more than Macy's, so that's why I'm with Pfizer. Kind of
Love it.
crazy. Yep.
That's a good reason.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, why not? Money's important, no doubt about
It
it.
it absolutely is.
Yeah.
How would you sort of describe what you do? What does a typical day look like for the
Yeah,
firm?
so I'm an area business manager. Probably most advantageous to everybody on the call today would be describing what my representatives do.
Mhm.
And my representatives really go through an extensive training program. So I've hired people from a diverse background. I've been a manager for over 20 years. There is no particular degree that makes you ideal for a pharmaceutical sales position. It's more the ideal person that makes people ideal for the pharmaceutical role. So my representatives basically go through extensive learning. We've got a very good training program. In fact, we've been listed as the #1 sales force 7 years in a row, as voted by physicians. And what they do is they go out and they educate on disease states. So, like non-valvular AFib, which may be a word you've never heard of, or a word you've not maybe have heard of, or more importantly, like migraines. Everybody's heard about migraines, headaches of that nature. So, basically, we go out and we educate on the disease state, and then we give them an alternative, one of the treatments. So, as I mentioned, we have Nurtec for migraines and Eliquis for non-valvular AFib and for pulmonary embolisms. And we go out and we educate. So, on a day-to-day basis, the representative has a set zip code list. So we were just earlier talking about my Kalamazoo territory. Just hired a gentleman from Grand Valley State in Michigan to take over that role. And you already have a list of about 225 doctors that you're assigned to call on. So you're not cold calling, you're going to offices that are well established, that know that the representative's coming in, and you introduce yourself. Your goal is to obviously work with the front office staff, work with the nurses, and then ultimately get in front of a doctor and present the clinical information. Now, we use iPads in our world, so our customer relations model is CRM, is a Salesforce model, which has digital content with clinical information, and it's all really pretty on slides and everything. But at the end of the day, that's what they do on a day-to-day basis. We do have the opportunity on a rare occasion to educate over a meal, be it a breakfast or a lunch. Maybe you go out and you've heard stories about pharmaceutical reps and all the wonderful things that we do, and we go to basketball games and we play golf. None of that's true. There's a thing called Pharmacode that became law in 2010 that eliminated all those activities. So, about the extent of what we do in terms of entertainment is in office lunches and breakfasts. And we get an opportunity to educate the physicians on the disease states and the treatments, as well as the support staff, the care managers, the case managers. So, as I like to say, you're always educating and you're always bringing forth information on disease states. And I'm not saying that our product is the only one. Every product is intended for the right patient. So there are competitors to our products, and we expect the physician to make the right choice when they get to that point to decide which product a patient should be on. So that's kind of what they do on a day-to-day basis. They have a company car, they drive around, like my Kalamazoo representative, which some of you might know where Kalamazoo, Michigan is. But they drive around and they put anywhere from 1,500 to 3,000 miles on their car a month. And it is a company car. So that's another benefit, which I can get into benefits later. Or you can always go to Pfizer.com and see our great benefits. So that's a little bit what our reps do on a day-to-day basis. As a people leader, obviously I'm a coach and I'm a leader. And if we want to get into that more, I'm more than happy to. But I think for this audience, it's best to tell them what would be the entry level job into pharmaceutical sales.
Yep,
Yeah,
perfect.
good.
Um, so what do you like most about the role? And what would you say are some of the biggest challenges that your reps face?
Yeah, that's a great question. First and foremost, it's easy to talk about what I like most. It's the people I get to work with. and the products we represent. We make a difference in people's lives. I've had the pleasure of having over 40 brands in my career that have treated stuff like Lipitor or Zithromax, some of the names you might know from the past. Yes, I also had Viagra as a manager, so that's a product you might know and associate with Pfizer. But we've had the whole spectrum of products. And you look at a Lipitor or you look at a Zithromax or even now Eliquis, it makes a difference in patients' lives. And that's what I enjoy most about the job is the fact that we bring medications to the market that help people live a longer, healthier, better life, first and foremost. And then, as I mentioned briefly on the front, is working with the people. And I get paid to do what I do too. So, like I said in the beginning, nothing wrong with making money. $200 more put me here. So, I'm here to make money as well. Some of the challenges, access to doctors. It's as people know about me, if they've ever talked with me, I'm very brutally honest. And our opportunity to engage with our customer is nearly not what it was 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or 20 years ago. When I first started 38 years ago, I was able to walk into every physician office, engage them in a conversation about our products, and then it was left up to them to make a decision. Now we can get into about 3 out of the 10 doctors we want to see. And then once we do convince them to prescribe our product, there's this thing called managed care. And managed care has this set list of products that the patient can get access to. And if your product is not on that list, the patient is going to have to pay out of pocket. And that out of pocket cost is significant for anybody that's ever had to be treated with any medication. So a lot of great things about the career. It's enabled me to, have 2 wonderful sons that I got to raise them, send them to college, got a beautiful wife of 38 years, and we've got a house, all those things. So the money is good, but more importantly, the biggest challenge is just seeing our customers nowadays. Very, very difficult to do so. And the integrated delivery networks, that's like a big health system. I know we got people from all over the country, but a big health system, the access to these doctors is getting to be less and less. So it's still a great career. If you can get in, get in. Trust me, you'll find a way to see these doctors. I mean, I've got a colleague, a new person, a year into the job. They call in the University of Michigan out of Ann Arbor, and she has found a way to get access to doctors that are no see. So those are the challenges and managed care pressures. Managed care pressures. So. Yep.
No, that's great. Thank
Yeah.
you for the honesty.
Yeah.
So as a manager, I think this is this next question I think you can definitely speak to, but what are some of the most important skills or attributes that you see folks have that make them really successful in this role?
Great question. I think first and foremost is just a strong work ethic. If you have demonstrated through your resume or previous jobs as you're interviewing with myself as a manager, clearly communicate that you have a strong work ethic, that you've been able to get a job, sustain a job, whatever that looks like, or academically done well academically and balanced all those forces working against you. Capability wise, I think the first and foremost, and we touched on this earlier before we started, when I first got on a few minutes early, is build out your network. That network and getting to know people on a personable level, not only when you get into the job, but also when you start working with the offices. The most successful representatives that I see on a daily basis really know their customers and know the people in those offices, and they really have a lot of grit, because this job, you get more no's than you get yeses. So if you have that grit and you're very resilient, if a receptionist at a front desk says, "Not today, Michael, get out," and that's what we hear quite frequently. If that makes your stomach churn, this job probably isn't for you, to be honest with you. But if you can just have resilience and say, okay, there's a new challenge, can I overcome that? That's a big, big thing that you have to have in this industry. So a lot of different capabilities. Can you analyze your marketplace? Do you understand your business acumen? Do you have technical knowledge? Because we are talking to doctors on a day-to-day basis. If you can talk on par with them, of course, they have to know very little about a bunch of disease states. We know a lot about 2 disease states, migraine and anticoagulation. So I would say those are some of the key attributes or characteristics or capabilities and skills that you would need to be successful in a pharmaceutical career.
That's great.
Yeah.
Um, so for this next question, I'm going to skip around a little bit, but then what advice would you give to students who are either starting out or are maybe career changers and are looking to break into pharmaceutical sales? How can they stand out in this application process?
Yeah, that's the big differentiator right there. I can tell you because those that do it really stand out. If you can start to look at these companies, just go to their websites, Pfizer.com. I know that there's this thing called Google, and you can look at 1,000 different pharmaceutical companies, right? But go to Pfizer.com and just start learning the excellence, joy, all of it, diversity, the things that are important to us as a company. And then when you're communicating with the hiring manager, you can really differentiate yourself because it's showing that you've shown a genuine interest in the organization. The other thing is build out that network. Go talk to other pharmaceutical reps. If you've got a friend of a friend of a friend, somebody that's a reception in an office, we all give business cards to every single receptionist, to every single nurse, to every single doctor. Just walk into a physician office and say, hey, do you have any pharmaceutical rep cards? Could I get 4 or 5 of them? And I would like to call them because I'd like that to be my next career. And just go in and do that. And they'll understand. It shows, you're being ambitious. You're trying to find a career, a career for you. So just go ask. I mean, every medical office, if they see reps, I got to qualify that. If they see reps, they get business cards from us. And you can take a picture with your phone if they don't want to give up their one business card. Take a picture with your phone and call the rep and just say, hey, my name is Michael Wallace, and I'm interested in a pharmaceutical career. And I was on a WebEx meeting, and I learned that I can learn more, and then start to build out that network. And after you talk to that representative, say, is there any chance I could talk to your manager? And I know as a manager, I'll take any phone call that ever comes to me. I'd give my phone call right now, my phone number to all of you. And if you want to call me, call me. But that's the thing that's really important. And I see somebody put something in the chat, a former nurse, that she might be able to enlighten us on her experiences. But I appreciate you chiming in there. It didn't stay up long enough for me to see it, but I know you can. But at the end of the day, whatever that network is, build it out and capitalize on it and really be ambitious and then show that you understand. I was just sharing that I had a gentleman I met at a career fair 7 years ago, and I just hired him. His start date was February 17th. So at the end of the day, you got to be persistent. You got to be persistent, build out that network and be persistent.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So switching a little bit to Pfizer, I think
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious, and maybe folks are on the call too. What are some of those perks? Can you tell us a little bit
Yeah.
more about Pfizer and the culture and all of that good stuff?
Yeah, I'll start with kind of our culture. I mean, we've got this, every company's got its tagline, right? But ours is breakthrough therapies that change patients' lives. So that's kind of who we are and what we're trying to do on a day-to-day basis. As an organization, if you go to the website, you'll see that I'm in the cardiovascular division of internal medicine. We have an oncology division. We have an inflammation and immunology division. We have a rare disease division. So we have a lot. We have a hospital business unit. Don't get me started. We've got all these different divisions in Pfizer. And like in the division I'm in, the cardiovascular field force, there's only about 490 representatives. There's only 46 managers. So of that 82,000 employees, I got to tell you, the sales force, all of us combined, doesn't even come close to the rest of the people that are running the company, right? But we're the ones making the money. So that's what we always say. They do all the work, they do all the heavy lifting, they make all the big bucks, but we do all the work out in the field and sell the products. So in terms of the culture, like I touched on earlier, I mean, we're a company that expects excellence. So if you go and you look at what Pfizer's accomplished in terms of over the 176 years now. Last year we just celebrated 175, 1849, Charles Pfizer. So 176 years. It really is about being excellence in everything you do. We, of course, look for diversity. We want to make sure we have equity and be inclusive. And all those things are very, very important to the company. In terms of the company, it's a much bigger company than the company I started with. I mean, we used to call it the Pfizer family. As I get older, many of the people I've been around for all these years, they've retired. I'm the oldest manager in the sales force now, so and the longest tenured. And old is just a number, by the way. But would that be the case? Some of the perks. I mean, I can talk about the perks as a pharmaceutical rep, not what the scientist perks or anything else, but we do get a company car. We do get a base pay. There is the potential for a bonus. You do get the opportunity to obviously engage with doctors. When you have lunch, you eat the lunch with them. We go to meetings, like I'm headed to a meeting next week in Orlando. Then we got a meeting in Houston, Texas in May. And then we got another meeting in September in Vegas. So you get to travel a little bit, not nearly as much pre-COVID versus post-COVID. A lot of the traveling has been significantly reduced. We do a lot more of what we're doing right here and now, and that's a lot of meetings. And so would that be the case? And it has pretty much all the other benefits that you would expect, especially for a pharmaceutical company, medical, dental, vision, on and on and on. You even can buy into some of your benefits. Like I buy into our legal. And so I pay a certain amount of money every single month to get legal advice. And last year, my wife and I built out a new living will and trust, and it was pennies on the dollars. So there's a lot of benefits being such a big organization. We have discount programs. So if you want to go buy a new car, Pfizer, obviously such a large organization, they have the power to, get discounts, things of that nature. So it's really a great career. Just a great career, great benefits, but most importantly, the medications. I mean, good, bad, or otherwise. My older brother just went on our anticoagulant Eliquis. That's not a good thing, but I'm glad he went on Eliquis because it's a very good medical agent. So, and I had my father on Lipitor, et cetera, et cetera. So it's exciting to be a part of an organization and an industry because Pfizer is not the only pharmaceutical company, but that gives back to society with medications. And I know we're on the front page of the paper a lot for a lot of different reasons, but it is a great career, and we've got great medications that help people live better lives. So, yeah.
Fantastic. So I know you touched on, or you mentioned this earlier, but I wonder if you can expand a little bit. The training. So new folks coming in receive, I mean, obviously, usually you get onboarding with a job, but talk a little bit about your training program and then what career progression and professional development looks like at Pfizer.
Yeah, great question. Training, just point of reference. So just had a gentleman who started on February 17th, as I mentioned. And what we do is, in this case, he had 3 weeks before the formalized product training started. So I was able to meet with him individually face to face and set him up for success. So I go out and I get his printer, I get his laptop, I get his iPad, I get all his business cards, his name tags. And so all that's part of the onboarding process. After that onboarding process is over, then you start formalized training. So he had a first full week of where he was able to learn about the organization and sign up for the medical benefits and all the other stuff that comes with that. I think one of the exams is still vocabulary. So believe it or not, there's a lot of buzzwords in the world of medical. And so would that be the case? He was able to do that. And now he's in formalized product training. So he'll spend 2.5 weeks learning all about Nurtec, the disease state, the treatment, the selling model, the digital content, be tested on the product knowledge, be tested on the disease knowledge, and then that's done. And then he moves over to Eliquis, and he'll actually get out of training on April 16th. So that's kind of how it looks. He started on February 17th. He'll get out on April 16th, and that's called initial phase 1 training. Phase 2 is in the field. Phase 3 is you go back for a week and you go through more formalized selling model, and probably in our Tampa facility or our New York headquarters. And then you come back, and phase 4 is kind of where you show your stuff at 1 year in terms of your product knowledge, your business plan, your territory knowledge, and you present out to the regional business director, who is my boss, and an area business manager, which is me, and then a bunch of other representatives are there as well. And that's phase 4, and that's your first year of Pfizer. I can tell you, you ask about additional training. I'm 38 years. We have access to Harvard Mentor Match. We have access to Harvard articles. We have access to, and Pfizer pays for all this. We have access to certified medical representatives, so you can take courses like on infectious disease or whatever the subject may be, oncology. Pfizer pays for all that. We've got edge courses so you can learn how to build out PowerPoint, learn how to build out Excel spreadsheets, learn how to build out, Word documents. And I'm sure there's a course out there now on AI, obviously, since now that's all the rage. But I'm still learning. We get tested all the time. Anytime there's a new product, every year we go through our Orange Guide training, which is our compliance training. I always say the biggest law firm in New York City is Pfizer. There's about 125 lawyers to obviously protect our company, but also protect us. We're very scrutinized and regulated by, as I like to say, the FBI, the DEA, and the CIA, and everybody else. But really, the FDA is the people that police us the most, which is good because we're protecting the patients. So it's great that we have such a great organization that does everything they can to enhance our ability to be successful with all those various programs, and then also has the opportunity to, get drugs approved, things of that nature. The progression, I use the example of a gentleman by the name of Bill Steer. He started like me. I was at the University of Oregon. He also was at a college. He graduated, and your opportunity is to go all the way to CEO, and that's what he did. He started with
Wow.
Pfizer as a graduate from college, and he worked his way up, and he ended up being the CEO with Pfizer. So there's a lot of career progression. You don't need to stay in sales. You can go over to marketing. You can go over to research and development. You can go over to manufacturing. I spent a year in manufacturing and in the business development role and trying to bring business into our manufacturing facility, which we have a 1,000,000 square foot manufacturing facility in Michigan. And there's a lot of career opportunity. I mean, you can go as high and as far as you want.
Oh,
Yep.
fantastic.
Yeah, it's great.
That's
It's
amazing.
wonderful.
Um, all right. And then you guys start thinking of questions, start putting them in the chat. I think my one other question that I have is in terms of location, right? So I'm assuming you mentioned Pfizer is not just nationwide, but international.
Yes.
What does that look like in terms of being a sales rep? I'm assuming you can be on wherever you are and you get assigned a territory. Is that typically how that works?
Yeah. So one, there's not a lot of turnover in this career. I've got,
Mhm.
it's interesting because I have right now what I call the youth movement. I have some people that are relatively new and they're 7 years and less. 6 of my teammates are 7 years and less, and the rest are basically 20 to 25 years, all the way to 35 years. So, and that's all due to promotions. I've had 6 promotions in the last like 3 years. So when somebody gets promoted, that's when that territory opens. And that's what happened in the Kalamazoo territory I've referenced a couple times. A
Mhm.
promotion happened, so therefore we have the opportunity to fill that position. So a lot of times, what I encourage people, if you are interested in somewhere in the United States, there will be an opportunity within the United States. I can tell you can go to Pfizer.com/careers, and I guarantee you right now there's an opportunity to be an entry level sales position within the organization. So with that be the case, I will tell you that anywhere we're in 126 countries, right? So we have sales reps in Brazil, we have them in China, we have sales reps in Canada, and we have sales reps here in the United States. So if you have the desire to go international, there's plenty of opportunities there as well. Hopefully that
Fantastic.
satisfies your question.
Yes, yes. No, I'm always a little curious
Yeah,
how
no,
that all breaks down.
yeah,
All right. Well, I know Carol has a question and raised her hand. So
great.
Carol, feel free to come off mute and ask your question, and then you guys start thinking of other questions and add them to the chat or raise your hand.
Thank you for the opportunity. First of all, Michael, thank you. I know that you're super busy, so appreciate you being here.
Oh, it's my
I
pleasure.
I will admit that I am an imposter here. I am on the access reimbursement, field reimbursement side
Oh,
with
great.
Cover My Med, so I'm sure you're familiar with how we
I
partner
am
with
very
the sales
familiar.
rep.
That's awesome.
But my question is, and I came to this call because I am looking to move from the third party McKesson Cover My Meds side to the actual pharmaceutical side. Would you have a contact on the access reimbursement side? Of course, I'm finishing up my bachelor's, but I have access field reimbursement experience, and I would love to, because I see opportunities come up in Tennessee all the time or for that territory, and would love to connect with someone so that when I graduate later this year, I can at least speak with someone about pursuing an opportunity.
Here's what I'd like to do for you. Yes, we have an access and reimbursement team. They're very active. We, of course, have many acronyms in Pfizer. We have our PALs and our FALs and our SALs and our MALs. And for example,
Mm-hmm.
PAL is a patient assistant liaison, and I won't
Liaison.
go into all the others for you. But at the end of the day, we have a very strong access and reimbursement team. And if you would be kind enough to connect with me, it might take, I can't name right offhand who would be the best person for you to talk to. But what
Mm-hmm.
I could do for you is find out the geographical area you're in and
Okay.
then put you in touch with that local person or somebody that I know and have history with. And then they can put you in touch with the right person. I would say the best way to find or know me is through LinkedIn. You can always, there you go. My LinkedIn
Oh,
profile
I
is just,
already sent the request as soon as this call started and I got your name. I was done.
yep, yep. Fantastic. She's all over it. She already posted my LinkedIn profile there. So, yeah, just put it there and then I'll proceed to follow up
Okay.
on your request. Also, let me know, what geographical area you're in here in the United States, and then I can try
Yeah,
to
I'm
hook you up with
southeast,
somebody
so
there.
like
And if they can't help you,
Tennessee.
what's
Yeah, I'm
that?
like southeast, like Tennessee.
Oh, perfect. Yep.
Yeah, in that area. So,
Hollywood. Her name is Hollywood.
oh, wonderful. Okay.
Yep. Yep. So I'll talk to you offline through
Yes, sir.
through
Thank you.
LinkedIn. Yeah, you're welcome. My pleasure.
All right, and it looks like we have another question. I just completed my MBA and I'm changing careers coming from the federal government. What would be your suggestion on how to best transition as a or to a rep role in NC in North Carolina? Sorry, not
Oh, that's okay. That's
NYC.
great. Go Tar Heels. Hopefully they're a Tar Heels fan. So in terms of transitioning, I also serve on some boards, and I serve on one board called VIP, which is Veterans and Pfizer, and we help military veterans transition from serving in our many services into obviously the transition to everyday work life here in the States. And I would give the same advice to you as I've given to them, and that is first go search out the companies that kind of match your morals and values, who you are as an individual, and kind of look at the company profiles. So there's a lot out there. Once you're out there in the company profiles, you can search out those companies and start following them. I'm not trying to give all my business to LinkedIn, but go search out those companies on LinkedIn and get a feel for them, and then go to their company website. And then once you've done that, you'll start finding some commonality. You'll find people that post from those companies. I know our CEO posts about Pfizer all the time on LinkedIn. He even does X. He does all the social media. And I think he's still on Facebook, believe it or not. I don't know if anybody else is. I'm on Facebook Marketplace. That's about the extent of it. But at the end of the day, that's what I encourage you to do. That's how you get started. And that's your best transition. And if you have any family friends, or again, I take you back to if you know any physicians, any nurses, any receptionists, I mean, they are a great source of knowledge and information and open a lot of doors for you when it comes to getting a career in a pharmaceutical company. And it doesn't have to be Pfizer, that's for sure.
Fantastic. So that
Yeah,
networking really is key
it's
if you're transitioning um, from wherever. Another question here. How do you see, I know you touched on AI, so how do you see AI and data analytics playing a role in
oh,
pharmaceutical sales? Or
yeah,
how
this
is
is
that?
first. Yeah, no, great question from whoever that came from. The reality is that's way beyond my pay grade. I'm not AI proficient, but I do love the concept of AI and everything. And we just actually on our homepage, our Pfizer World page, talked about data analytics and also studies about how AI is coming into play and scrutinizing the data. Like I said, I'm not in that space, so I don't want to talk out of line, but I encourage you to go look at Pfizer World, so Pfizer.com, take you to the world page, and you can read about how we're using AI to help advance the organization within the organization. In my world, all the AI, we have expense reports. So we expense our lunches with doctors. We expensed, obviously, the various things like the gas in the company car. AI now scrutinizes every single expense report. And then for me as a manager, it pre-approves it, and then I have to go in at the end of the month and take a quick once over. But AI has taken over that process, and it's done a bunch of other stuff. Like right now, we're doing a piloting program with Microsoft, and there's a a program within Microsoft, and most of you probably have heard of it, Copilot, and
Mhm.
how Copilot is playing a role in our organization. We go into a lot of these meetings, and Copilot, you can take this recorded session and it can summarize it like that. And we're doing a lot of that in meetings now as well. I'm not a part of the Copilot pilot, but at the end of the day, it's pretty cool what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
With
We've
that
got a
answered that
Copilot
question.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's fantastic.
yeah,
I've got another question here. I think, Pfizer is so big and it can be intimidating. I think applying sometimes to a large organization like this when you know that there are so many others applying as well,
yeah.
right? And so the question is, what would you say is one of the important factors in finding a position with such a large company?
Yeah, I think first and foremost is when you look at the need to have versus want to have, so the minimum criteria on any job application. Take a look at that and make sure that you meet that minimum criteria. But the nice to have, the additional criteria, let the company decide. I say post. Post for jobs. Even if you don't think in your heart you're qualified, post for that job and make that decision in the hands of the hiring manager. The other element of that is, I think, really showing that persistence and reaching out to individuals, and just you might not get the job the first time. Like, for example, I referenced Ann Arbor. A candidate reached out to me 3 years ago. She did not get the job. She stayed in touch with me every 3 months. She just put something on my LinkedIn. Hey, Michael, still interested in a career? Well, 3 years later, I had another promotion. And lo and behold, who now works in Ann Arbor? But Julia Rithaler. So that's the representative I hired. But she did not give up. She stayed in touch with me. So I think the biggest thing is it may seem like a really big company, but the reality is just go find that job that's right for you at Pfizer.com/careers or any other pharmaceutical company, and just look at the job criteria and don't count yourself out. Let the company decide. And of course, we're using AI within the company and they screen it. But I had 104 people post for my Kalamazoo job. I only get to hire one person, and there's a lot of very qualified candidates. But the people that really made the biggest impression on me is they stayed in touch with me long before I had the opening. I think that's a big thing. So,
All right.
yeah,
Um, let's see here. And so, okay, just because you were talking about that rejection piece, another question came in. I have a federal law enforcement background in medical as a surgical technician. I have applied for pharmaceutical rep, but I got rejected because of experience. So, what do you recommend this student do?
I guess I'm a little confused when based on experience, maybe lack of sales experience, but the technical aspect of it. In a lot of cases, I encourage students to go out and find any. Oh, there's the yes. Um, Demonstrate that you have sales background. I mean, that's the biggest thing is that you can sell. And the biggest thing you're selling right there is yourself first and foremost. So I say continue, even though you are getting rejected, try to find out somebody in the organization you can talk to start selling yourself. So when the next opportunity comes along, you have the opportunity to sell yourself. Because a lot of traditional managers, and I've been around for over 20 years hiring people, they look for kind of a cookie cutter thing. I'm not that way. I want the person that can go out there and be resilient, as I mentioned, and not to overuse words, but have a high energy because it's a high energy job and be able to go out there and do the job. So that's why I say it doesn't matter what your background is. You've got to sell yourself to the hiring manager first and foremost. And I would say that's the biggest thing. So if you maybe don't have any sales experience in your background, maybe that's what's preventing you. I mean, any kind of sales position. You can go work for an enterprise. You can go be a waiter or a waitress at a restaurant. You can go work at, country club or something, but go get some kind of sales experience that'll help differentiate you from others.
Fantastic. And I know there was another question in
Yeah,
here. They do have a strong wholesale and retail sales background in account management. And so
great.
really highlighting that, I would assume would be
Yeah, that's great. That's a perfect example. I mean, account management and sales kind of go hand in hand. So I would really emphasize where there's parallels. And I always tell people read the job description. And when you're talking to the hiring manager, reiterate those words. Look for those keywords in that job description, put them in your resume, and also articulate them in the interview. And that
Yeah.
will resonate because that's what we're listening for, right? We're all
Mhm.
listening for something very specific in that manner.
Yeah, absolutely. And I
Yeah.
know someone else said hospitality, and I think I will expand. So, Michael, we call this in career services transferable skills, right?
Sure.
So,
Yep.
really, really honing in on those, regardless of what industry you're coming in from, right?
Yeah.
Really touching on those skills. And if you guys do need help on how to do that, we do have career advisors available to you who can help you fine tune your resume and really highlight or bring up those sales skills or those transferable skills. So I
Let me
do
put in a
want to,
plug right
before
there.
we touch on every industry.
Yeah. I want to put in a plug for career planning and services. Didn't exist when I was going through school. They just basically had a place where you go apply for jobs. They can help you write your resume. They can give you interviews, sample interview questions. They can help make the difference. And me as a hiring manager, I can tell the people that have gone into career planning and placement and worked with people on their resume as well as their interview skills. It's night and day, night and day. So if you're not taking the time to do it, and it doesn't need to be in person, it definitely can be virtual. I know that we've got a very probably talented people in your university as well. So folks, take advantage of it. It's a big differentiator. And as a hiring manager, I can tell who's done it and who hasn't done it. So that's my
There you go.
plug.
Good
Yeah, you
plug
don't
for
have to
us.
send me any cash or anything for your plug.
And then another question, what about any required certifications or any certifications that maybe aren't required? You see them, you're like, oh, this is good.
Yeah, well, they say the average person looks at a resume. Now that I built up the whole resume thing, they say the average person looks at a resume for 7 seconds when they make a decision. So I know I look at those that I'm moving forward with a lot longer than 7 seconds. Certifications, it's very pharmaceutical company dependent, and I think industry dependent. I've always just hired for the person. I can't say, I know there's all these companies out there that say, oh, I guess there's one about there's actually a pharmaceutical sales certification course out there somewhere. I understand it costs hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. I've never hired anybody with that certification. And it's not because they had it or they didn't have it. I've just never, ever gone, wow, you've got that certification. A certification is just indicating that you have an interest there, but doesn't mean that you'll be good in the job. So, me personally, if you ask a N of one, I would say that you've got to make sure that the certification matches the industry you want to go into and also what they're looking for. I know other pharmaceutical companies require it. I can only tell you as an N of one within Pfizer, it doesn't impress me all that much. So it's a good question, though.
Great.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. All right. And then another question here that I'm coming back to. What's a memorable success story or impactful experience in your career?
Oops. You cut out there. Maybe it's my
Did I
internet.
cut
You cut out a little bit.
out? Sorry.
Impactful or memorable experience
Memorable success story or impactful experience.
that I've had.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're cutting out. It's probably my cheap internet. No, gosh, I've had so many, but I think one of the most important things that I've ever experienced as a people leader is watching individuals come to me with no background in sales, no background in any kind of pharmaceutical experience, and watch them grow and develop. Now, this is speaking as a people leader, and watching them grow and develop, and then having the opportunity to advance their career and move up to higher levels of responsibility. When I became a people leader 20 plus years ago, my goal was and still is for somebody to come full circle and end up being my manager. So I've had over 35 promotions in my career. People are moving into different levels of the organization. I don't know how many more years I have left. I would like to go a minimum of at least 2 or 3 to get to 40 with Pfizer. But at the end of the day, the reality is just watching that's what keeps me rolling, is watching other people go beyond what they thought they were capable of doing. And that's my greatest success. I've had the pleasure of winning lots of awards and doing all that stuff, but that doesn't compare to watching other people have success and achieving more than they ever thought possible. And then coming back years and years later and telling you the impact that you had on their life. So that's my success story. Yeah.
That's amazing. I would say that definitely resonates with all of us in career services as well.
Yeah. No, that's, yeah.
Let's see here. I just want to make sure I didn't miss any other questions. Oh, I think Carly was wondering if you have any connections in Delaware. There's no current openings on the website, but she
Yes.
would be a great fit.
Yeah, so thank you, Carly. I love that enthusiasm. I'm sure there'll be a great fit. I would have to look up who is the because we have all these divisions within Pfizer. We have like we have our migraine team, we have our cardiovascular team. But if you'll touch base with me on LinkedIn, I'll look at our organizational chart and I'll put you in touch with somebody. Like I said, the turnover, I might go another 10, 15 years with this kind of youth movement where I've had 7 new hires in the last 2 years, where I might not have turnover for another at least 2 to 3 years at a minimum. I've got some people that want to retire. But at the end of the day, turnover is not real high in this industry. Once you get in, very few people, they move onward and upward, but they don't leave. So more than happy to help you out if I can, Carly.
Fantastic. And I did put that LinkedIn link in there earlier, and I just added in the Pfizer website or
great.
the career website
Yeah,
for everyone in the chat here. All right, and we have a couple more minutes. So any other questions from the audience?
Yes.
Oh, are there any intern opportunities?
Yeah. So go to my LinkedIn profile. We do have internships. We have rotational programs. We have a whole bunch of different programs. I'm not involved in them, but you would think I work for LinkedIn as many times as I've said their name today. But what I do is I post when those open. So they usually open in September. And once they open, it's first come, first serve. So if 100 applicants apply, they're going to look at the first person that applies. So just at the very minimum, follow me on LinkedIn. You don't have to be my friend on LinkedIn, but you can follow me on LinkedIn. And as soon as that opens in September, they start looking at people for internships, rotational programs. We call them secondments. There's a lot of different names, but we definitely have opportunities within our organization. And you have to meet this criteria, which I'm not involved with. You know, what year are you in school? Sophomore, junior, academically, where do you stand? And they're all across our company. It's just not sales. If you're in the sales and marketing, you go to headquarters, which is Hudson Yards. We used to be at 235 East 42nd Street in Manhattan. Now we moved a mile away to Hudson Yards, where the Vessel is, if anybody's heard of the Vessel. That's that bronze sculpture that you climb in New York City. But at the end of the day, we have lots of opportunities in research and development, in manufacturing, in finance, on and on and on. Great question. Thank you for asking.
And you do, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember seeing an MBA program as well for any of our.
Yeah, we do reimburse. We do a reimbursement. I did earn my master's through the reimbursement through Pfizer. So fantastic. We do. That's one of the major benefits. We have so many benefits. It's hard to remember all of them, but that's a major benefit. So
no, that's fantastic.
Yep.
All right, great question, Brian. Any other questions? Just going back in here.
Sure. Hopefully everybody's taken away 1 or 2 things they can implement. That was the goal of me getting on here today. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is, I know, as we joked about earlier, we're interrupting March Madness with NCAA basketball, but at the end of the day, hopefully each of you have found something that you can take with you and move forward with and take action on. It doesn't have to be everything, but 1 or 2 things will set you apart from a lot of candidates that are interested in sales.
Yeah, this was fantastic. I always love the practical advice. So the idea of like, hey, the next time you're at the doctor, grab some business cards. I think that's such a great advice. I'm gonna keep that in the back of my mind. But so definitely thank you so much for everything that you've shared.
Yeah,
I
you're
don't see
welcome.
any other questions
Okay.
here.
All right.
So I'm going to go ahead and stop our recording just to kind of